Thank you. Thank you for having me here. My name is Jakub Kochańczyk, and I perform role of head of partnership in Almarise, but I have a background as a Java developer, DevOps engineer, Atlassian consultant, team leader. So let's say in the software development and engineering consultancy, I'm in for about 15 years. But today, I'm a ITSM master, and I will be talking about monitoring SLAs outside of Jira Service Management and how can we tackle this challenge with eazyBI and our product SLA PowerBox. Because Almarise, quick selling slide, we are Atlassian Platinum Solution Partner and Marketplace vendor. The app was created because our customers had requests to track, measure, and report out of their service management projects and service provider projects. So we had to somehow address their needs. It was a long time ago. We did some scripting, but in the end, we have created separate app that just tracks time, because measuring time is easy. Everybody, raise your hand who has time measuring device with you right now. Yep, it's easy. So how many hours, working hours, are between 3 p.m. today and tomorrow at 9 a.m.? Working hours. That depends. Thank you. How many working hours are between 3rd of May and 6th of May in Latvia? Let's say it might be tricky because I learned when I came here, I want to have the local touch of the presentation. I learned that 4th of May is the recovery of restoration of the independence, but it happens on 4th of May. But if the 4th is on weekend, then it will be switched to 5th, or then the closest working day available. So it's not that easy, but it can be easy when you use proper tools. Because as you probably know, there is Jira Service Management, which is a great tool when in terms in handling service projects. But you don't always need JSM for this. Why won't you need the JSM? For example, you have internal customer. As a consultant, for example, and this is example from in this presentation, I was working for the internal customer. All the tickets related to changes in Jira were handled within a Jira, and the customers were Power Jira users, so they didn't need a customer portal. So everything was happening inside of Jira. Or maybe you want to track time. Of course, we want to track time outside of JSM processes, but those processes somehow should involve your working hours in the calculations, or maybe some duty calendars and holidays. And of course, there might be a reason you don't want to have JSM because of the licensing policy, where of course you pay for agents, you don't pay for the customers, but there might be a scenario where this kind of situation will be beneficial for you if you don't pay for the agents tiers. And of course, you want to have cross-project visibility outside of your process, which is not available in JSM reporting. So today I have prepared 3 examples, 3 use cases we've successfully implemented together, SLA PowerBox and eazyBI, which worked really well outside of Jira Service Management, and we get really nice values. So first one is the one I was personally working 7 years ago. It was standard 3-line of support project. The other one was a project where we were tracking OLAs, so operational level agreements, similar like SLA, but hey, just different letter, but internally for software development project. And there's a recent example from Krzysztof project, I think, customer who is really tight on the on costs and cost tracking, thus time tracking. They want to track the initiative or big ideas delivery, so they did track the time with our product, and then we reported that with the with eazyBI. So more or less standard support process. First line of support, they get the ticket. If they don't know what to, if the ticket is not obvious, they ask the customer. If they don't know how to handle the topic, they send it to second line of support for internal analysis. If the internal analysis is not conclusive, they can send it back to the third party, so third party vendor, which is not very, we don't want to send tickets there, but hey, sometimes it needs to be done. But all the time, since the ticket was created, it needs to be measured, so later we can report out of that. But what we want to achieve from this two line from that information, we want to have as many tickets handled by the first line of support, because first line of support is most cost affordable, while the third line of support is, let's say, less than that. So how can we configure our product? First of all, we need our working hours calendar from, let's say, from 9 to 5. Our holidays, because we won't be working, at least our first line of support, probably, maybe there is options for that if they'll be working on that day with the special support configuration, but we can have both of these worlds. And then we also need to configure how much time do we have to solve our tickets. Depends, of course, it depends on your scenario, on your business agreement with your customer, with your end user. It's the standard procedures priorities, but you can define any possible, more or less JQL-like expression, like urgency, affected service, whoever is the requester. But for the sake of the simplicity of this example, we'll have that two priorities with 16 hours and 8 hours for resolution our ticket. And configuration of the metric. This is happening in our product. Why? In a moment. So whenever the ticket is created, the clock starts to run. Whenever we are waiting for the customer, so we are not actually working on the ticket, so we cannot, because we are missing some information, we will not be held accountable for not solving the ticket. We don't have enough information. So yeah, that clock will pause, and once it reaches the status category done, the clock will finish, and we are ready. And after that, we are ready to have all the possible data probably to report after. So how it might work? Good. Sorry. This is real-time example. I will create a complex issue that requires 3 lines of support for this. We will see that we have real-time data, that time is running. We have 16 hours to solve our ticket. It will be then handed over in a minute to the second line of support. Oh, now it's handed to the customer. So the ticket is paused. So we are not held accountable for this ticket. It goes back to in progress. Now it's back to the first line of support, so they can probably send it to this second line of support for further analysis. Like I said, no, it's third. Yeah. So, but as you can see here, the time is measured for the whole resolution, but we have separate clock for each of the lines. Why? Because with that information, we'll be able to track which line took the most time or consumed the most time of our resolution. But hey, right now with 2 minutes of this video, we have solved really complex ticket. That's really good result, I would say. So how did it work for us? After the first global metric where I was measuring time, I have created 3 separate metrics which are working similarly, but in the opposite way. So whenever the clock is clicking for the first line, it's paused for the other 2 lines. If it's clicking for the second line, it's paused for the other one. Because of the configuration of the app, I wasn't presenting clocks that were paused. So because if it's assigned to the second line, the first line probably isn't interested in their time, but maybe the second line is interested in. So that's good. We have the real-time information of how much time we have actually spent on this particular topic, how much time we have left to solve it. So we have real-time data. This is where for the operational purposes, but for the reporting. With our product, you can easily export those data to eazyBI by simple configuration of the app itself for time to resolution and the metrics for the other metrics as well. You need to just 2 or 3 clicks for each information from the clock itself, whether the clock was breached or how much time did we spend on this particular issue, whether it was exceeded and how much time was exceeded, or what's the actual state. And all those information will be exported to the custom fields. So once you have that information in the custom fields, you can do whatever you want. The integration is, I would say, kind of straightforward. So yeah, we have breached, and if it's breached, it's yes. It's time spent, it's 24 minutes, or because we are exporting minutes. If it's 1 hour, so we are exporting 60 minutes to that custom fields, which later can be used in the eazyBI reports. For example, right now I have number of breaches in April and in May, and now I can try to probably figure it out what are the reasons behind that. No, sorry, before I will show the formula, today I learned that filter and descendants, it's no-go, so please don't frown upon me, please. But yeah, that's one of the possible solutions. And now I have the other pretty nice chart telling me that, hey, my average time to resolution is rising. That's not good. But I know that I'm getting breaches, so it's also not good. But this is a way for me to start figuring out what might be reason behind that, and I can see the first line of support average time for a resolution is rising, so probably they are being overwhelmed, or the second and the third line are not working hard enough or not enough, because as you can see the line is dropping. So that's for the line manager to figure it out what to do with that information. But by division of the SLA metrics and counting time for each of the line of support, we can figure it out what are our bottlenecks. Oh yeah, the formula for average, obvious, everybody knows. So the example for the initiative management that we have recently introduced to one of our customers, we did a similar configuration. We have divided the process into the phases: analysis, design, implementation, delivery of the initiative. And we are counting time for each of the phases. I'm not going to show the configuration of the app, but generally the clock is ticking whenever it's in either of the statuses. If goes to the next phase, the clock is paused and the other clock is starting. So we'll have similar timeline chart for this. So we'll see that average time to implementation sadly is rising. I don't know, maybe because the average time for design is dropping, or for analysis is dropping as well. So there might be a correlation between those two data, but it's yet to be decided by the managers. But hey, we can track the time accordingly to actual calendar, actual to how people work, and then report out of this and try to figure out what are the next steps to or check whether we are on track or not. So the final example, I would say a bit more complex, I don't know, OLA and software development lifecycle. Normally, you don't use the SLA OLAs in software development, but there might be cases where you are fixing production bugs and you want to commit to some strict and tight time limits because of the production bugs, because of the possible outages and costs that will cause to our company or to that company. So you want your dev team, QA team, or DevOps team to commit to some tight time frames that they will deliver their work. So I don't know if 2 business days for high priority issues is long or not, but that was the requirement. Is waiting for the code review at 8 hours is long? I don't know, but that was the requirement. So yeah, but what we want to make sure that each of those windows is measured whether and react whether it was breached or not. So we can do the same, let's say, do the same exercise. Divide this in phases, or maybe it can be one status phase, fine as well. And track time and count breaches, which and present that in the charts later. Yeah, so unfortunately here I got more and more breaches in the time to fix code review phase and time to fix and in the delivery, so in the DevOps phase as well. But with the power of eazyBI and easily how can I analyze that and drill down into the data, I might figure it out that I have some maybe misalignment of priorities because I had 8 hours for code review. Okay, I'm almost at 7 hours here. But for some reasons, people are reviewing the medium priority topics faster than the high priority bugs. So I don't know, but this is I think this is pretty useful. So I can drill down to the bottom of the reason why it happened. Can I get more of that integration? Yes, you can, because by design we are integrating through custom fields, but we are exposing the REST API. For example, you can get information how much time you have in total in this particular phase for your clock. So you can easily count how much time not only how much time is left, but for example, if you deduct all possible time and the active time, you will get the time in pause. So after having this metric, pause time, average pause time, you can get whoever is hoarding issues too much. For example, if we are handing this over to the customer and it's waiting for the for the customer, and we will see that it spends a lot of time in the post state. So probably we need to improve this part. If it's paused in the third line or third-party vendor, maybe there is a reason for that as well. And of course, if we want to drill really down, we can analyze the history of the SLA changes. So we can get all that information through the REST API. It will work similarly to the issue change logs, but right now it's not about the changes of the statuses, but the changes of the states of the SLA itself, and analyze that and figure it out more later. Yeah, so profits. I think that with SLA, we are covering the gap where you get the real-time information on the go for the operational level. If you have 1 hour to resolve your issue, you cannot, unfortunately, get that from eazyBI, but from us, yes, please. You have single source of truth for calendars and holidays and whole SLA monitoring. And the integration is straightforward and easy through the custom field. And yeah, you can optimize your costs by maybe not using JSM or reducing the license for it. Thank you.
Any questions to Jakub?
Thank you for a great presentation. So just I got several questions. So first of all, these are those who are working with this Jira instance or whatever is people, and the people are not robots, and they sometimes get sick.
Yes.
So how just your solution handles those cases? So because as I saw that you are monitoring that on per seconds, basically, which means very careful reporting is careful monitoring is needed for that.
We are using seconds just to present that the time is ticking. So we are reporting till minutes, but in various scenarios, SLAs are applied up to the, let's say, time to first response is up to 15 minutes. So it's not, I would say, what was the word? It's not surprising that we are requested to measure time up to the minutes and report for that. Yeah.
Okay. My second question is about your REST API. So, for example, so it shows quite a lot of internal information, and in case there is an external customer is connected to the Jira instance, so the API is exposed automatically, typically, which is happening. So, how just you have some kind of solution that would prevent such exposure of which is undesired, which may be undesired in such case?
We are exposing the same information as the access to the issue. So this was it wasn't the standard API, because from technical perspective, it's the same API we are using internally between backend and frontend. But for the integration purposes, we have exposed separate URL, but this endpoint is authenticated with the permissions of particular user. So no, it's not exposed publicly to everybody, but with the permissions of actual users, and we are respecting the access to permission access to the issue, and only if the user has access to the issue, they will get the information about the SLA.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. More questions? No questions, and thank you very much, Jakub, for your presentation.
Thank you.